Okay. I'd like to call the September meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulated District to order. Roll call.
Mr. Chairman.
Take your time.
David Bergstrasser.
Present.
Albert Hayes.
Here.
Mark Finkel.
Here.
Thomas Stover.
Here.
Michael Clark.
Here.
Robert Leslie. Here. Robert Fulton.
Here.
John Hodgson. Richard Farrar. Here. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Need a motion to adopt and revise the meeting agenda. Is this the August meeting or the July? Which agenda are we? Oh, this meeting agenda.
This is the September.
All right. Do we need to? I think we're going to have to go. We're going to need an executive session to discuss litigation and personnel.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Yeah, make a motion to adopt and revise the meeting agenda.
Revise it to include an executive session.
Okay, there's also two resolutions I'd like to
Which to Fulton County?
include under contracts. One is just to extend a contract that is for GEI consultants,
Okay.
and the other is to conditionally award work for the Six Lake Dam subsurface investigation. So we would add that as B and C under contract.
Under revision. Okay. All right. So I have a motion to revise the meeting agenda to include those two contracts
And the
and the other.
also move.
Mr. Stover.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, thank you. Guests? No public comments? Let's see. Probably would just be a good time to go into executive session because I have some questions before I proceed with the next. That I'd like to discuss with Mr. Hudson. So,
Could I make that motion, we go into executive session?
all right.
Okay.
All right. All right, so we're back in business. All right, so I need approval of the July and August board, the July regular board minutes, August special board minutes. Any?
So moved.
For both, we're doing both at the same time.
Do both at the same time. There's no changes.
They are.
Mr. Hayes made the motion.
Have a second?
Mr. Stover.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so thank you. All right, let's go with the report of the executive director.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My report is on page 51. You'll note that it goes back well in line. Again, it's been an active period. During that time, I spoke at the Indian Lake Association annual picnic. Their association, similar to what is around the Great Sacandaga. They appreciated it. They also seemed to be had plenty of questions as far as how Indian Lake fits into operations on the Hudson River, and I explained all that to include the fact that that was at the time of that their association meeting that I attended was only a few days after the Adirondack Challenge, and that all the water that was headed down the Indian River into the Hudson Gorge was up in Indian Lake. And it explained to them a little bit about the efforts staff had to make in order to make that event happen and come off without it being obvious that there was any issues. Actually, there wasn't any issues, at least not on the river. I also spoke a few weeks after that at Great Sacandaga Lake Association's annual meeting. I've made a habit of doing that for the last several years. Very much similar an idea to what I did in Indian Lake. It's a good thing for the executive director to go out to these, anybody that's interested in around the lake and answer the questions on what's going on and how things work. And folks always appear to be receptive, and they like to have somebody face to face rather than catch them on the phone or catch them in the meeting. And those kind of things I plan to continue to do. Also, there was later in the month a meeting with the Interstate Attorney General on some of the refund litigation issues, and we expect that to continue. The last thing I want to report on is, and I've passed it out, I think I also emailed it to the board, there is a letter from the Fulton County Board of Supervisors that's, it's really a letter looking for our interest in supplying water to a potential water district in Fulton County, a water district that hasn't yet been formed. But the concept is there. Board of Supervisors wants to pursue it apparently, and right now they're dealing with, I know that the Fulton County Planning Department has a consulting engineer on board to do what amounts to an initial study, and the concept that they want to explore with us is drawing raw water from the Sacandaga in order to supply that water district. And essentially that letter is asking, it wants to know if we would entertain the idea or not. I don't know what the board's opinion about that. I think staff's opinion, if I could speak for staff, is that we don't really have any objection to it, and that any amount of water that they may draw for a water district would be, the word I would use is minuscule in comparison to what we normally have for daily releases. So it's to be very small.
Right.
Because that would be more quite what would do the lake levels would be.
I doubt you would notice it. Just as an aside, I will say that normally small water districts or small municipalities, if they build a plant for 1 million gallons a day, 2 million gallons a day, I mean, those are the rate, even 5 million gallons a day. To give you an idea, and the chief engineer can probably confirm this, but one MGD or 1 million gallons a day, if you converted that to, I'm probably stealing his thunder, I apologize for this, but 1 million gallons a day, if you converted it to our average daily release, it's like 1.5 CFS or 1.56. It's not a heck of a lot. When you consider that a small release of Sacandaga would be, right now you've still got, what, 1,300? Or have we scaled back? Or daily release now?
Yeah, it's that much, about 15 or 1,600 CFS a day. And that's the minimum.
So it's a tenth of 1% of what we've got as a daily release right now as we speak. So,
if I'm not mistaken, it goes through it would go through their system and be released back into the river anyway, through a treatment plant for the most part.
Probably drawn from the reservoir somewhere, and
Yeah.
then into a filtration.
And eventually go through the county and be released back into the river through the wastewater
Some
treatment
river.
plants.
probably.
Yeah.
It would seem likely that it would eventually make its way back to Sacandaga.
Sure. You might, so even at that.
I mean, there's a great cycle of life, yes.
We're not diverting anything, we're just diverting it a little bit, that's all. Instead of releasing it directly into the river.
So I guess I'm not really asking for action, other than that if the board
I have no objections.
generally agrees in principle to that, I'll write back to the the chairman of the board and let them know that the regulating district would consider further discussions. And we'll leave it at that at this point, because there's nothing hard and fast, or
Right.
and there's certainly no design at this point or proposal.
Let them look into it.
Could they get Mr. Moraes to come and discuss it a little onto it at one of the meetings?
I'm sure we
Pretty
could.
much.
Yeah.
I will ask, and probably, Mr. Hayes, if we're gonna do that, we probably ought to suggest that he bring his consulting engineer with him,
Yeah, that's it.
you know.
That sounds good.
Get his opinion. Any other questions for, well, wait for Mr. Pickles. No objections to the early drawdown at 6 Lake?
Well,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Was it really?
No one, well, I prefer to say that no one was interested in taking advantage of the opportunity to make any construction at lower water.
I just saw the notice. Publicly. All right, so we're still gonna go through it?
No changes.
Okay. You have any questions for Mike? Okay, thank you. Let's get through the contracts. Let's do the first one, the resolution to approve the 14th Amendment to the contract C022004. Mr. Leslie. Which one's
This is
that?
on page 52. It is something we do pretty much every year because NIO sues us every year.
Oh, okay.
still.
Yeah, they're suing us for the Blackberry assessment. All this does is add this newest suit into the legal services contract that we have with Brown and Weinrock so that they can also cover this suit.
So it goes into the file.
Yep.
Okay. So we need a resolution to approve the
Motion to
14th
adopt.
Amendment? Or is it, what's that?
We need a motion to adopt the resolution.
All right, need a motion for to approve the 14th Amendment to the contract?
So moved.
All right,
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Stover.
all in favor?
Aye.
I'll be added to the list. All right, contract for GEI consultants.
Yeah, well, let's,
Can I see it?
kind of just flip that around and do
Oh, you want to do the other
the
one first?
the award.
Okay, let's do the 6 Lake Award.
So, there's the award letter and the resolution is that behind the award letter.
Need a motion for this or just a, oh, yes.
And Mr. Fulton can speak to this if the board has any questions.
Certainly.
I guess the only thing that I would add, well,
Go ahead.
you can start, I was just wanting to walk you through the solicitation process we went through. Rob and I had discussed this for some time, and we agreed that we would use our discretionary authority to look at MWBEs, in this case, 4 particular MWBEs, which we solicited to and sent proposals to directly of the RFQs, and no response,
Really?
no interest.
Well, we made the effort.
We made
Made
quite a,
considerable effort.
this was a considerable effort to
We
do it in that
contacted,
fashion.
contacted firms, 4 firms that we sought via several different resources, mostly internet searches, but firms that weren't even listed in the state list of firms. I
I'm
don't
not sure all of them were, but.
yeah, maybe a couple of them were. And then they sent them the documents directly, encouraging them to consider the work.
Amazing.
And that was the first go around, and no one responded.
You
And
must-
we followed up with calls to find out why, for various reasons. The job was too small, too far away.
Too far away.
Now, had they been the only one that submitted a bid,
Mhm.
job probably wouldn't have been too far away.
Might not have been as far away.
Yes,
Yeah, it might have been closer.
so.
And that is, I mean, those reasons are, I mean, you get
Legitimate
those
enough.
reasons from all
Maybe
vendors.
they had a lot of work.
I would point out, Mr. Chairman, that we've got, there's a big MWBE, that minority and women-owned business enterprise. There's a big initiative in this state, and of course nationwide too, to utilize those contractors that have been gone through the approval process, and in this state, the state approval process. And we try like crazy to get, to meet our goals.
Right.
You know, and employ these contractors or firms where possible. And it's we were hopeful that Rick and Rob were going to actually have some success and be able to broaden our participation in where we're actually able to use that. Our spending in the regulating district is really very confined to, aside, we don't buy an awful lot of supplies or materials or anything else like that. And so our spending, certainly anything large dollar, primarily is either directly operational for personal or personal services, you know, employment, or contracts like we're talking about right now, whether it's construction contracts or legal contracts, or take the pit.
We're trying to make a breakthrough here.
We're trying to make a breakthrough. Rick is right, and yet we're having a tough
This would
time.
have been the first, you know, this was potentially the first core mission vendor that wasn't legal services or some other service that we would have hired or engaged.
But we were too far away.
And we're still having difficulty meeting our goals.
Because of that, I mean, we would.
But we're attempting.
We are attempting every day, every time this issue arises. We're going the extra yard, but we're still having a lot of difficulty meeting those goals.
Okay, keep going.
So as Rob was saying.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Apologize.
That stole your thunder.
So, so we bring that memo to you because we had resolicited after the August 8th date as a result of not receiving anyone submitting the first time around. And actually, it looked as though we weren't going to receive any submissions. We finally did receive one the morning of the deadline on September 5th. And so a single bid was received from SJB Services in the amount of $9,940 to complete the subsurface work associated with the engineering assessment, which Camp Cresser and McKee and Smith is completing for us. And so, staff recommends conditionally awarding the work to SJB Services, Inc. and seeks board acceptance and recommendation, or acceptance of the recommendation, and authorization to form a contract to complete the work, and authorization for the executive director to execute an agreement in the amount of $9,940.
Okay.
And I'll take any questions if there are any.
This is just 6 Lake.
It's 6 Lake. Initially,
Are we gonna do the same thing at the old Ford Dam, or?
no, there really is no earthen structure. It's all, I mean, there is some fill, but it's behind a concrete retaining structure. So our engineer initially thought it might be worthwhile, and now, prior to us issuing the RFP, decided that that would not be good use of our funds to investigate that soil behind the concrete structure
That's
in
different.
that location. So it's limited to only 6 Lake and only the 6 Lake embankment.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve contract, no, not contract, the bid and conditional award of the work.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Stover?
Mr. Stover, Mr. Finn.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. On board there, all.
second is just an extension of a current contract with GEI. Just
GEI
Yeah, go ahead.
is involved in our ice sluice design.
Oh, all right.
They're also involved in the geotechnical investigation work that we completed several years ago at Hockenville Dam. Both of those projects are on our list of projects to restart.
Right.
And so in order to have them continue as consultant engineer for both of them, and GEI will be our on-site construction monitoring engineering consultant for the construction of the ice sluice remediation.
Okay.
In order to complete that work, as well as the supplemental geotechnical work that we anticipate completing is on our list, and has now been on the list to be rescheduled.
Good.
We need to extend the contract out beyond its current completion date, which I believe is December 31st of this year. And so
That's,
we need to extend it in order not to have to jump through some other hoops later on.
it's fine. So I need a motion to approve the third amendment to contract C032007 with GEI Consultants.
So moved.
Mr. Hayes.
Second.
Mr. Stover.
Any other questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Shall we go through the committee staff reports? General counsel?
Yeah, my report is on page 59, most of which we talked about,
Right.
I think, in executive session. We still have had no joy with regard to Jefferson County addressing the unpaid National Grid payments. And I guess we already talked about the television civil appeals settlement program during executive session. And I think in the interest of time, I will simply open for questions.
You want to do the governance committee?
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
There was
There was a motion brought up from the governance committee.
there was a motion brought up in the governance committee to adopt the domestic violence and workplace policy, which the committee brought out, and went as well.
All right, so I just need a motion to approve the
Right.
So moved.
workplace.
Via motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? So moved. Housekeeping. Please vote. No, I don't have any more questions.
Yes.
That's just
All right. Mr. Farrar?
Mr. Chairman, my report was sent to you under separate cover letter, summary was part of the board packet. That was on page 6. I'll just cover several areas. The district's independent auditor finished their field work on the 22nd. Following their exit, they did follow up on several more items, which is typical. There's a lot of stuff they look at, that when they get back, they look at it again and have additional questions. All in all, that was probably the cleanest audit. I mean, we've had unqualified audits all along. That one went about as smooth as any audit I think we've ever had. Again, I think it's because of their team has been in place for a number of years. This is the first year that we will have a new principal.
Right.
Alan Walter will do the presentation to the board at the December meeting. But in terms of the interaction, the ability to provide them information quickly, they're just learning our language. I mean, we've known theirs for years, but they know how to get the information from us in a much more efficient manner. So very clean. And I fully expect them to have the first draft to us in plenty of time to be able to get it onto the authority budget office by September 30th of this year, which is the requirement. There was one noteworthy disbursement for the period, which was basically the initial payment on the Black River area note.
Okay.
And that was in the amount of $105,000 and change. You get the small part amount there. So what we're going to do is I had suggested to the board several meetings back that the board allow me to look at cash flow and manage that accordingly in terms of what was going on in operations in both areas as to be the basis for what additional payments we would make and when. So we're not there yet, but right now we're certainly halfway towards what we had cash flow forecast for this year. So we're in good shape. They're in good shape, which is the important thing.
Yes.
They should clearly get through until they receive their assessments for this current assessment year. So things are looking good there. And just wanted to remind the board that the bond counsel that we are using is an NWBE firm.
Oh, really?
Just a reminder. Yes. Brian Rubino LLP is an NWBE firm, which our main contact at the Division of Economic Development, I always get confused with exactly what they call themselves, down in New York City, actually assisted us in getting bond counsel. And that was actually, quite frankly, the first time that they've actually come through for us there. But again, the engineering work that we do, they understand that it's pretty difficult,
As we
just experience. And that's all I had. If the board has any questions, or you want to have to answer.
Any questions?
I have none.
Jacob? No.
Is there any others?
No board member expenses for the period, so no.
No. And it's nice not hearing a cash flow run that's going to run out. Which I will admit. Okay, let's have the engineer's report.
Thank you. My report begins on page 61. August, as of the 25th, when the report together, August precip, wide-ranging from historic average, 26 to 105% of historic average from across Indian Lake to Conklinville. And our inflow to Great Sacandaga was about 72% of historic. Our release was about 85% of historic. The Black River area ranged from 74 to 123% of historic average. Precip from Stillwater to Old Fortune Sixth Lake. And our inflow to Stillwater Reservoir was about 66% of historic, with release at 109. That being the case because we refer to the next couple of pages, page looks like maybe 70, 71, the graphs of the reservoirs, we were coming down off of above target. At Stillwater, at the end of July and the beginning of August, so a little bit heavier releasing, but all the graphs demonstrate the fact that for the month of August, we're right on target. Things have been a little dry the last week or so. We are starting to draw down slightly below those targets, but at Stillwater and Sacandaga and Indian Lake, not the case at Six Lake and Old Forge because of the operation plan we have in place. We're still above our targets and we're at the targets at both of those reservoirs. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that concludes my report.
This is.
Yes. Well, actually, it's this 6 Lake, you have Old Forge.
No.
So, he wanted to know if those were the target levels that the woman was complaining about. Letters.
Our target, well, our target at Six Lake and Old Forge,
They're right on.
yeah, they're right on, and
Yeah.
in fact, at Six Lake, compared to historic average,
Mhm.
we've targeted slightly higher, because we knew that, well, I knew that coming into the position of chief engineer, that had been a complaint prior to 2000. So, since 2000, we've maintained, I think, a much tighter and much more agreeable elevation during the summer for the 6 and 7 Lake residents than they experienced for the any time prior to 1999.
Right.
And, I guess I might as well, while we're on the subject, not only that, but certainly the commencement of the release of water is a full month later
Mhm.
than Six Lake has experienced prior to '99, extending their season dramatically
Oh, okay.
as compared to how it was operated prior to '99.
Mm.
And so, yeah, we're a full foot higher come October 6th.
Mhm.
Usually don't start that drawdown until the second week in October. We're generally, on average now since 2000, still a full foot higher by the end of October. And the first week in November, we're still about 4 to 5 inches higher than the operation prior to
Right.
2000. So, in terms of accessibility, recreation,
Rob, the drawdown
since
in
2000, they've had significant improvement.
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt,
That's okay.
but the drawdown, I think it's worth saying to anybody that's not familiar, that the drawdown in the Fulton Chain's not what's experienced. Certainly, the extent of the drawdown is not what's experienced in maybe the Sacandaga or
No.
in Indian Lake.
No. The operation of Old Forge and Six Lake reservoirs both are keenly in tune with recreation and commerce and
Mhm.
access. And I think it's been that way. It's been that way, I think, my understanding has been that way historically for the district. We fine-tuned it over the years to make sure that it's higher, maintained in a much narrower band right at the spillway
Yeah.
to provide and satisfy those goals. And two, that's why we've extended the season and don't start the drawdown. Historically, the drawdown started the first week in September.
Mhm.
So we're actually almost 5 weeks out, where that 6 Lake is maintained at its normal summer elevation.
And the total elevation change seasonally is?
6 Lake is about 5 feet, and Old Forge is about 4 feet. Whereas Sacandaga, you're talking about 20-foot drawdown.
Right.
And there's, if Old Forge or Six Lake were to be operated without regard to those other goals and objectives that I mentioned, but purely on a reservoir operation, river regulation perspective, they would be drawn down further, and the storage would occur differently in springtime without consideration for the shifting of ice.
Right.
And the drawdown would be started earlier without the consideration of recreation and access and commercial use, so.
So we'd be very compliant.
Why,
The
I think we
community's
worked pretty
needs.
hard, and a lot of that came from our initial meeting we had with the folks around
Mhm.
the reservoirs back in 2000, 2001.
Sometimes I forget it's a reservoir, not a private lake.
Yes.
Sometimes, yeah, more often than not. All right, any other questions? Comments? Any, no reaction to the early drawdown at 6 Lane?
Well, we received comments that no one was in favor of taking advantage of the drawdown for any kind of construction purposes.
Didn't this initiate?
There was
Because of the
one
request?
individual who would prefer to do his work in the dry, and
Okay.
so having known that there have been in the past other folks who have benefited by a drawdown. And when we drew down 2001, 2002 to complete some of our work, Mr. Hayes might remember that. Yeah, 6 Lake. I know there were other folks taking advantage of that opportunity. And that was the only reason why we thought we'd throw it out to them. But no one wanted to take advantage of it, so there will be no change.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now the area administrators. We won't specify which area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report starts on page 95. A couple highlights here I'll go over real quick. Sue and Stephanie have been still continuing working on the converting the filing system at the field office, and they're probably 3/4 of the way through it. It really saves us a lot of time in having all the files together now and going to one file. The whole thing is right there, so it's really working on good. Michael speaking of the governor's canoe race, July 21st, Rob got a phone call that they needed some more water, right? Was it you, Rob? They needed more water for the challenge, and they had a little problem with trying to coordinate someone to go up there, so I personally went up there and opened up the gate to get more water and stuff, so it did happen. And we had to go up later that night,
Had to make additional
and
adjustments.
they did get a hold of somebody, and then to go up and
No, okay.
make another adjustment on that, so. It worked out good though, we had it covered.
Good.
FERC inspection at Stillwater Dam a week ago, so that went real good. My hat's off to the guys. They did an outstanding job. I mean, the place up there, you walk into the control house and you actually eat off the floor. You know, they've done an outstanding job there. That made the whole inspection go a little bit smoother, if you will. Probably one of the better FERC inspections that I've seen in both areas. We turned out pretty good with everything. You know, FERC is pretty happy.
Good.
Met with Black River area staff at Stillwater for upcoming projects, and they've also started some downstream masonry repairs on the main dam up there, so we're working on that as we speak. Let's see, I've been up to Watertown every week also, and learning the daily operations, weekly, monthly operations, what's going on up there. And also reached out to some of the emergency service coordinators up there to start attending the quarterly meetings that they have and letting them know that there's been a change in their action plans with staff up there also. So, and the last thing, right now we're putting together a tour of the Black River area beneficiary facilities. Myself, the executive director and chief engineer actually want to go and tour all the facilities so we can see them in person and look at the facilities up there. We're more familiar, if you will, with the ones in Hudson River area. If you want to update our list and contacts in the Black River area also.
Okay.
So That's all I have. I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody may have.
Have you any forward?
Sure.
If I can find the time.
Actually, I think we spoke about possibly doing it right before the next board, because we'll be able to still. Even the plants are right there.
I think that I fully intend that the majority of the senior staff gets out and actually visually looks at as many or all of the hydros in the Black River area as well. I know the chief engineers and assistant or operations engineer are very familiar with them. I think the rest of us ought to be also, and so we intend to.
So what, 17 up there?
On
In the black?
On the Black Oak Road. I don't know. There's more than that.
I don't want to change the line, still are.
Yeah, by the time you add in the Beaver River, Moose River has a couple.
I don't have them.
All right. Any more questions?
No, I have none.
Okay. Thanks. All right, I guess we have to deal with the,
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
you might ask.
Special meeting was held last month, October 20th, specifically to deal with vacancy in the Black River area caused by the retirement of the former Black River area administrator. At that time, the board took action in the form of a resolution 133008, in which the board divided the duties of the former Black River area administrator between John Hudson, Rick Ferrara, John Hudson to act as, and named Mr. Hudson acting Black River area administrator, and directed Mr. Ferrara, the chief fiscal officer, to assume local level financial responsibilities that formerly were performed and held by the former Black River area administrator. And at the same time, also adjusted the salary of Mr. Hudson and Mr. Ferrara. It appears that that has been working well. I expect it to continue to work well. If you remember, the board made that. I'm sure the board remembers that move was made to avoid expenditure of number one, a significant additional amount of money by a hire, essentially avoiding a $100,000 expenditure when you consider salary and benefits, and replacing that in turn for, at least for the interim, with a $13,000 expenditure between two folks. Total, that's not each, that's total. However, I would ask that the board now would, in the interest of maybe taking a more comprehensive approach and a more long-term approach to dealing with this job assignments, I would ask that the board consider a resolution to amend that resolution I just mentioned by amending it to remove or rescind the salary component of it until such time as we can make a more permanent, comprehensive move in dealing with the personnel. There were two components to the resolution. Again, one was the assignment of duties. The second then
was the salary adjustment.
Also adjusted the salary of two individuals.
So you're looking for a motion to amend the salary adjustment only?
And that's the resolution 133008, which is August 20th.
All right. So we have on the table a request for a resolution to amend the salary adjustment from the resolution back in August
August 20th.
20th. Any discussion?
No.
What is there, you know, I just feel, I mean, how do you, I mean, part of our mission is to cover the Black River area, and I mean, how do you do that and ask a guy not to get paid for it? I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, I may vote, you know, in favor of this I'm really conflicted about it.
I would like to add to that amendment that we include the component that if at a later date we do approve the salary compensation, that it is retroactive next to the date that the men were given this assignment.
You have to second the amendment.
It'd be August 20th.
Okay. So we're going to ask for a resolution to amend the resolution, the former resolution from August, to rescind the salary adjustment, but to make it retroactive if it is approved at a later date. Is that all right?
This motion.
Yeah, that's,
I made the motion. Finkel made the second. You want to do this as a roll call? Individual vote,
Technically,
or are they? Well, I vote yes.
Well, vote yes.
No.
I vote no.
Okay. So we have 2 yeses, 2 noes, so the amendment goes down. So it stands as is. And we would like
Yeah,
to make the request.
I'd like to make a motion that we request a meeting to resolve this issue with our representative in Albany.
Will do. We're just going to authorize you people to approach her.
Will do.
And if you're a board member there, we're very happy. Need to vote on that?
I think we just authorize them to make the arrangements for the meeting. All right, so any other business?
meeting location?
Meeting location for the next meeting is, I need a motion for the October meeting in Stillwater in Belleville, down in Belleville.
Correct.
So moved.
Mr. Hayes.
Stover.
Second. Mr. Stover, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? In Stillwater, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Finkel, Mr. Stover.
Mr. Finkel, Mr. Stover.
All in favor?
Aye.